do. Hi, I'm Wendy from Sunflower Publishing, and I'm absolutely thrilled today to have an author with me who's written the most amazing book. I can feel heckles at the back of my neck at the moment when I think about this book because it really was extremely powerful, beautiful, compelling in every which way. The book is City of Silk. Glennis was a teacher of classics before she became a primary school teacher and later head teacher. Hope I've got that right. Since her
Yeah,
retirement,
Wendy.
she spent her time improving her Italian. We'll hear some later. Visiting Italy, especially Bologna, and writing. City of Silk is her first novel, and I hope we'll see many more. And it won the inaugural Debut Writers Over 50 award run by Jenny Brown Associates, and she lives in Essex. Does that sound about right?
That is absolutely right. Absolutely correct, Wendy.
So welcome. And first of all, let
Thank
me
you.
just thank you for doing this.
It's a delight. I'm thrilled to be here.
I know some authors sort of shy away from interviews, but I just love talking to authors, especially someone like you, that you never set out to be a writer, particularly, did you?
I didn't know. I had a whole career in
Yeah,
education,
yeah.
but I had always loved language, I suppose is the only way to describe it. I love Shakespeare and poetry and read and read and read. Occasionally, I would put pencil to paper and enter the odd little competition. But teaching is a full-on career,
Mm.
and there wasn't a lot of bandwidth left really. And it wasn't until I retired that I thought, well, let's just give it a go. And to be honest, City of Silk was just written for me. It was just, I wonder if I can do this. I wonder if I have the skills. I wonder if I can put this story that's milling around in my head down on paper. Um, and I just, as I finished it and tidied it up and so on, the competition came along, and I just thought, oh well, put it in. So the whole thing was really an enormous surprise and very unexpected.
This is the stuff that dreams are made of, in a way. Um, it's everybody's dream to be discovered like this, isn't it?
Yes.
I just think this is the most one of the most amazing stories I think I've come across. I mean, many authors, I started writing when I was 3 and I did journals and diaries, and you kind of expected them to get somewhere, and they have. But for you, it wasn't like that, was it? What made you, or how did you know about this Jenny Brown writing competition? How did you find out about that?
I saw it advertised somewhere, and to be honest, I can't even remember where now. It was probably online. It might have been Dyslexia. It might have been one of the other sort of online writing things. And as I said, it just came along at that very opportune moment. I had finished the book. I'd done some editing on the book. And I put it aside because I didn't honestly know what to do with it. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure whether to go through the whole process of sending it out to agents and all that kind of thing. And it was just serendipity, pure serendipity.
So let's talk about City of Silk. Am I right in saying that was not the original title?
No, it wasn't. I told you I loved Shakespeare earlier on. It had a sort of Shakespearean title. It was originally called Vile Apparel,
Mm,
which is a little phrase that comes in Henry IV Part 2, I think it
okay.
is. And I was trying to get across with that the idea that it was about clothing, but it also had a dark kind of side. But quite reasonably. publishers, Alison and Busby, thought, not quite right, not quite right. And we played around with it for a while. And I remember the day they said to me, we've had this idea, what about City of Silk? And I remember just going, oh,
Oh, that's
oh,
nice.
yes, yes, that's it.
Yeah. How lovely. So just give us a narrative of why 50, what was it about 1575 and Bologna that grabbed you?
Right. Well, Bologna, first of all, many years ago, as I said, I was very busy teaching, head teaching, that kind of thing. And it was half term, and I thought I needed a break. My daughter was at university at the time, it was just the two of us. And I decided I wanted to go for a city break, and people had said Bologna's nice. So I remember sending her a text saying, I'm thinking of going to Bologna for a few days at half term. Do you fancy coming? Mother is paying. um,
Oh, they're the best sort of
just
holidays, aren't they?
yes, exactly. Just the sort of thing. And she said, oh, yes, please. We went just for a few nights, 3 or 4 nights. Thing. We just had a wonderful time. Well, I had a wonderful time anyway. I think she had a wonderful time, and I really fell in love with the city. It's got these layers of history,
Yeah.
layers and layers of history, but it's got this spirit as well. There's a very independent spirit about Bologna. Bologna is a city that doesn't like to do what it's told. I think is
Okay.
probably the best way to
Okay.
put it. Um, and I started looking back, and 1575 came to me in particular because at that time the Karachi boys, as I like to call them, the three Karachis, the artists, were very young. They were just beginning. The silk industry was booming. The city was a papal state, so it was under the Pope, but didn't like being under the Pope. Um, there were these orphanages throughout the city. Bologna wasn't alone in that. There were orphanages in
Yeah.
most of the major cities at that time. Um, and suddenly it all just fell into place, 1575. Meanwhile, I fell in love with a painting, which was also dated around 1575, which was in the National Gallery, which the character in that painting absolutely inspired me.
Right.
So I don't know if you know it, but in the National Gallery, there's a painting by Moroni called Il Tagliapani, or The Tailor.
Taylor.
And there's this 16th century tailor, probably comes from Bergamo actually rather than Bologna, but and he's standing there at his table. He's got his shears in his hand. There's some fabric that he's just been cutting, but he's looking up and he's looking out at you, the viewer. But the expression on his face is just wonderful because he's basically saying, what on earth are you doing here? As it, you've disturbed him at his work. Who are you? What are you doing here? And it was that made me think, who is it? Who is he talking to? Who could it possibly be that's disturbed him at his work? And I came up with my protagonist, the young woman Eleanor. She's not much more than a girl really. She's
Mm.
about 19 thereabouts. She's a seamstress by training,
Mm.
but she really longs to be a tailor rather than a seamstress, and she's asking him for work.
Mm.
And his expression is of disdain, really.
Could could that have happened? Would that have happened?
It stretches a little bit the
Yeah.
bounds,
I mean,
it
we
does.
know, like you say, the orphanages. I mean, clearly from the research that you've done, and this is the clever bit when you use the research that you've done to weave a
Mhm.
story, and come up with something that there were these girls put in the orphanages, and
Oh yeah.
they had a heck of a time of it, really, didn't they? I mean.
Oh, it's
It,
terrible.
it's
Mm.
almost akin to the Victorian system, the Oliver Twist story, and
Mm.
there was no hope for these people, but there was in a way. I mean, she wants to become a tailor. The chances of ever getting to be a tailor are so remote, but along the way, there are challenges, aren't there,
Oh,
for
yes.
she's what words would you use to describe Eleanor?
She's
Brave, I
very
guess.
she's very impetuous. That was one
Right.
of the characteristics I
Yeah.
wanted to get across. So
Yeah.
at the beginning, in the first chapter, she's basically told you're going to be married off
Yeah.
to a tailor, but he's not going to let you do any work. You know, you'll be lucky if you get to sweep the workshop. Um, she's a very impetuous young woman, and rather than think about the consequences, she just thinks not doing that, just not doing
No,
that, and
not
and she
happening.
and she runs away. By this time, she's working for a seamstress, and she runs away from the seamstress. Um, and it's a very dangerous thing to do. She could be on the streets earning money as a prostitute within weeks if
Yeah.
she's not careful,
Yeah.
because she's got no visible means of support. But she's just so determined, and she trots her way down the whole of the tailor's alley, as it were, from one workshop to the next,
Mm.
offering herself for work, and is dealt with extremely roughly in some circumstances until she reaches somebody who finally gives her a chance. Now, I did read that there were one or two female tailors in Bologna at the time. They couldn't be part of the tailors' guilds, they were not allowed to be, but there is a little bit of evidence that there were one or two
Right.
tailors. So it's possible.
It's a beautiful story. I think when I did my review, it's so hard to just put everything all at once into a story, isn't it? And I think I sort of said the themes that you packed in there, and I use the word pack advisedly, the friendship, a couple of, well, Laura, one of her friends, and another one, Sophia. Friendship, that's got to be important as a theme to pull things together. Faith, and as you know from your own research, faith was everything then at the time. We've got loss, her parents, we've got loyalty, we've got prejudice, and
Mm.
we've got power. When you were writing this, did you have in mind, oh yes, I'll put that theme in there. Oh yes, that's a good one. Let's have that in there. Sexuality, yeah, let's or did it just flow?
Well, yes, embarrassingly, it kind of,
It flowed.
looking back on it now, it feels as though it wrote itself. It's
That's
really odd.
amazing.
I knew I wanted the villain, what I wanted the villain to be like.
Yeah,
And I'd actually based him on, he's actually based on Jimmy Savile,
right, right.
because he's
Predator.
cheerful. He works with charity.
Right.
He wears these extravagant clothes. He's got this wonderful public persona with these horrible things going on underneath.
Mm,
Um, so that idea of abuse was very strong, and I wanted that in there.
mm.
Um, the gay theme kind of took me by surprise. I have to say that just suddenly appeared at one point. The
That's a really beautiful touch in there, I think. It's not something that perhaps people would ever imagine might have been around or talked about in Renaissance Italy, but that is a beautiful touch. How she finds out about that, again, is shocking. I mean, as the story
mm,
goes, that the police are knocking on people's doors because they're trying to out all these
mm.
these men, and so how she finds that out is quite a shocking story. And at first I think she is quite shocked, isn't she? She's quite
She
shocked.
is. Yes, I wanted her to be of her time. So she has been brought up in the Catholic faith, in the
Yes.
faith,
Yeah.
by these women in the
Yeah.
orphanage. She wouldn't have questioned anything. She
No.
would have been told that homosexuality is evil and wicked
Yeah.
and wrong.
Yeah.
And so when she finds out that he is gay, her immediate response is, "Good God, that's just terrible. That's just appalling. That's immoral," and
Mm,
so on. And it takes her friend to give her a slightly
mm.
different take on things, a slightly different, yeah, view of
And
things.
then as she develops such a deep friendship for her boss, we call him the maestro,
Mm,
and she can see the two men together. And she starts to question, well, who are we then? If I can see this love between these two men, who am I to say that's wrong?
mm,
And I think that's an amazing part of a story that, okay, I was brought up to believe that was wrong, but then, on the other hand, this is a real love that I don't see in other people, and I'm seeing it in
yes.
these two men. So how could that possibly be wrong in God's eyes? That's quite touching. I mean,
Oh, good. I'm glad.
that's quite a theme, I think, really, isn't
I
it?
mean, she does. I hope she does grow during the novel and
Oh,
mature
she
during the novel.
does.
It becomes less impetuous. She's
Yeah,
more thoughtful. She's more thoughtful for others. She becomes less selfish. So towards the end, she has to think about the young women
yeah.
in her care, for whom she is responsible now. Um,
Before you wrote
and
this, did you have any idea about creative writing? You've just mentioned then about I want her to grow. And yes, that's one of the creative writing elements that your characters
mm,
need need to grow so that the reader is taken on the journey. Did you know any of this before you started writing?
I think I'd read an enormous amount. I do like novels and their structure, all
Right,
kinds of novels and their structure. I had read some how-to books, if you like,
right,
some
okay.
some
Right,
articles, some
right.
books about how to structure a novel,
Yeah.
um, so that it just doesn't go wandering off. Um, so yes, I had some idea of structure and
Mm,
how things should develop and people's story arcs and things like that.
yeah, right.
Um, so yeah, she did kind of lead me in some places, you know. She told me what was going to happen next in a strange kind of
That's
way.
amazing. I have heard a few people say that before, that suddenly you become that person, and you can see in your mind's eye how this is going to go. Um, she does have some challenges along the way, which we've discussed, and I think when I was doing the review, and I thought, yes, I mean, you mentioned in one of your interviews about retribution, and I think that's, yeah, why wouldn't you? You would want retribution. And then I thought, hang on a minute, revenge, justice, what's the difference between all of these? And then I
Mm-hmm.
decided that, well, maybe. Yeah, okay, the dictionary says yes, there is a little bit of a difference between justice and revenge. But then I felt with Eleanor, she was going for it. She was absolutely going for everything, for retribution, for obviously the friend of Laura, her friend. She was going for all those things. Was that a conscious attempt to make it successful for her or make it difficult for her?
Um, I think perhaps if I can answer you a little bit of a roundabout way, when I was writing the little phrases that they ask you to put at the top of your synopsis to
Yeah,
say what your book is about,
right.
I got the word justice in my head.
Right. Okay.
So I remember the first sentence, even now. I said, in 16th century Bologna, justice is like the fine silk the city produces, something only the rich and
Yeah,
powerful can
that's
afford.
that was rather
So
beautiful. That was, wasn't it?
I thought it was good. It took a lot of
It's good.
putting together, but I
This is
think,
good.
but when I got it, I thought, yes, that's what it's about. It's about who can have justice,
Yeah.
and because of her background, her class, her everything, justice is denied to her. Justice was denied to Laura and all the other girls in the orphanage. And I wanted her to get that justice and for the powerful who had done wrong
Yeah.
to pay, basically.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Was it something that you had experienced in your own life? Were you able to draw on elements for that? Or,
No, I think it was more about things in the news, things that we hear about. And
right,
if I could just go back to Savile again,
yeah,
for me, it was very hard to cope with the fact that Savile died still lauded.
yeah,
If you recall, he had that amazing funeral. Everyone was saying how fantastic he was and all that work he did for charity. And it only came out later in the
yeah,
following months,
yeah,
what he was really like, and that some people knew. Some people knew. Some people had facilitated as well,
yeah, yeah,
like the two women in the orphanage.
sure.
Um, and that really stuck in my throat. I don't have any religious belief myself, so I couldn't believe that he was going to be punished in the afterlife. And I just found that so hard that he'd got off scot-free.
Yeah,
He had done all these dreadful things, but died with no one knowing, so not many people knowing, and got away with it.
mm,
And so for me, it was about those people in power and where they're still around us, they're still with us, who get away with
with it.
things.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my villain to
To
get
get
away
away
with
with it. Funnily enough, I watched that only about a week and a half ago, and he
it. Oh,
just
yeah.
kept saying, when I meet my maker, when I meet the big man, it's between
Yeah, yeah.
him. Yeah, okay, yeah. It's a hard topic. That is a hard
It,
topic. Just going back to the book, then we do have. Do we want to see her married at the end?
this is
We don't necessarily want, I don't think we want the sort of, Sleeping Beauty or Cinderella type thing going on. But would you say that in the end, justice was achieved?
yes, it's interesting. A couple of readers have said to me, "Oh, wish she'd got together with Agostino at the end." But
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me, first of all, that would be tricky as far as the evidence goes because he
Yeah.
went trotting off across
Yeah.
Italy, and we
You
know
don't
the
want to make
story
it
back.
too Walt Disney, really, do
No,
you?
no, no.
Particularly.
And I just thought she's been damaged, actually.
Um,
Um, Sexually, she has been damaged.
yeah.
And she says at one point she couldn't expect any man to mend that tear.
Mm,
And I think she doesn't believe that there would be any relationship that could actually wipe away what she and the other girls had experienced.
mm.
I wanted her to be very independent. I
Yeah. Oh,
wanted her
she is,
to,
isn't she?
yeah,
Beautifully
to
so.
achieve on her own
Yeah.
terms. And
Yeah.
in those days, it was difficult for women to achieve on their own terms. Some did, some rich women did, but it was very hard. And so I decided against. But as I say, some readers have said, "Oh, hurrah! You didn't end up with a
Mm.
with a nice
Married with
religious
three kids.
marriage."
Yeah. I don't
No,
know if that would have worked, really.
no, no.
Would it?
Maybe sometime in the future, who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah.
Maybe she did meet someone in the future. But where I leave the novel, she is content
Yeah.
with her life as it is.
The research that you did, and you certainly, well, must have been amazing. And there is a really beautiful, authentic touch to it, which I do always look for because I live here in Italy,
Yes.
and I do want to see some Italian words and
Yeah.
references and things like that. Was that? did you enjoy that, the research side of
Oh
things?
gosh, enormously.
Yeah.
In some ways, you can get really carried away with it if you're not
Yeah.
careful.
Is it hard knowing when to just,
Yes, yes,
no,
it is.
Glennis,
Yes.
just
So,
stop. You've got this file now.
yes, this is
Stop.
enough.
This is enough.
So a lot of the research was the city of Bologna
Yeah,
itself,
yeah.
which I kept visiting and revisiting, and kept walking around like different times of the day and night,
Right.
different
Yes.
seasons, to see what it felt like, what it would feel like for her as a young woman on her own.
Mm.
Um, but I also enjoyed doing quite a lot of academic research into the artists of the period, into these orphanages and how they were run, and the systems, because it was very strict. As it says in the prologue, you have to fit these criteria, otherwise you won't be taken in as a young girl. Then you have to stay until you're 16. Then you have to be farmed out to some kind of work somewhere. And then after 3 years, that person has to find you some kind of paid work.
Mm.
So it was an amazing system that these poor girls were sort of pulled into. And there was some wonderful academic research actually on that, which I thoroughly enjoyed
And are
reading.
there any museums there now that show some or that look at the history of the silk production? Are there any costumes left from those days that you see?
No, you have to go for the paintings really for
Right,
the
to
costumes.
see.
There's
Okay,
very little that
right.
survived, but paintings are great. Uh, uh, Caravaggio is amazing for
Yes,
fabrics.
yes. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I found looking at him really good. There is a scale model of one of the mills, the silk
Right,
mills, in a
right.
technology museum in Bologna. There is a wonderful museum called il Museo della Storia di Bologna.
Okay,
So
right.
it's the of the whole
History.
history of
Mm.
Bologna. I
Right.
kept going back there. It's
Yeah,
a
that
wonderful
would be
museum.
worth
It's
seeing. Absolutely.
very hands-on, very child-friendly actually, um, and just getting a whole sweep of the history of Bologna from that.
Amazing. Right, so can I now move on and just ask you a few author type questions so that
Mm.
you get the insight to Glennis? Should an author, do you think it's important that an author has a pseudonym? How do you feel about that?
Um, I wouldn't.
No,
I think is
no,
my answer to that. I
no.
mean, obviously, it's up to personal choice. I'm sure some people have very good reasons, but for me, I was so proud. To be perfectly honest, I was so
Yeah,
proud of having
yeah.
written it.
You are
That
happy to put your name to it.
yes, and my name is very unusual,
Quite
so
rightly. Quite
it's
rightly, yeah.
yes. So for me, it was my name that was going to go on it certainly.
The next book, please. What is it? Can you tell us
Oh,
anything?
not, I can't really because I can't make any announcement
Okay.
because there's
Oh,
editing still
sure,
going on.
sure, sure.
There's
But there
editing
is
still
there
going
is
on.
another one.
Oh
There is
yeah, I'm writing madly. I'm writing madly.
that's
You
what we
may be
need
a
to
little
know.
sad to know this one is not set in Italy,
Okay,
actually.
right.
It's a slightly different period and it's a different place, but there's a very strong art theme
Oh,
in this
wow.
one, a very
Okay.
strong theme of painting. And
Right.
so instead of fabrics, I'm playing with the idea of oil paints and
Right.
that sort of thing.
Right. Okay, interesting. What does literary success look like to you? Is it money, fame, or both?
It's certainly not money. I never thought that there would be any money. Um, Success, but in a small way. I mean, I would like the respect of um, fellow historical fiction authors and those who love historical fiction. That's what I
So
would
when
aim
when you
for.
are invited out for drinks somewhere and people say, "What do you do?" Do you say you're retired or do you say, "Actually, I'm a published author"? What What comes more naturally?
For a long time, it was I'm retired. I was a head teacher, so I'm very
Well, there's
different
nothing
from
wrong with that.
no,
Nothing
and there's
wrong
nothing wrong
at
with
all.
that. No, and I was very proud of that career.
Of
But
course, of
I
course.
people do now know,
That it's you.
that it's me. I published a book, yes,
Have
and
any
so
of your ex-pupils tracked you down and said, "We always thought you'd write something," or, you know,
no, not ex-pupils actually. Some staff have
oh,
some
right,
staff,
right.
yeah,
So
but
maybe
not
they always
ex-pupils.
thought there was, I mean, going back to the book, it was so beautifully written. When I wanted to just use some excerpts from the book, I just kept thinking, well, I just don't know which ones. I don't know. And then there was the one about the fog when, it's on the Day of Judgment.
Oh yes,
And
oh
oh, I
very well.
mean, my goodness me, I don't know if I've got a copy of it here. It's absolutely, did I? Oh, I should have printed it out, shouldn't I, really? I mean,
Oh,
it's
don't worry, I know the bit.
absolutely.
It's where
Oh, here
she's
we are. Can I just
moving
read
into
this
the
out? It's
city, and
just, it's so beautiful. It really is. A November fog had crept up from the canals during the night and wrapped itself around the city like a caul. I had to look that up.
all right.
And once I knew what it was, I thought, oh wow, that's perfect. Once dressed, I pulled on my cloak, drew up the hood, and set off for the two towers through the thick silence. It was as if someone had poured fog into the narrow streets where it was swirling like curds in whey. I could see nothing at all except the greyish white wall of fog, and even a resident could make a wrong turn into a canal. It's beautifully written, just
Oh, thank you, thank you.
beautifully. It was just things like that. You've got some wonderful things I did look up. Spiri, the Italian slang for the
Oh
police. I
yes,
didn't know
yeah.
that. I mean, you've taught me some,
They
some,
still use it. Did you
and
know that they still use it?
no, I
It
didn't.
it basically means cops. So somebody will
Cops,
say the Speary are coming, the cops are coming. So
right.
it's still used. But in those days, they were more like, well, they were thugs, really. They
Yeah,
were,
sounded like it.
they weren't regulated or anything. They just
No,
roamed about doing
yeah.
whatever they wanted.
And as
Nasty,
a
nasty.
woman, you so often through the book you say it's dusk. She needs to be
Mm,
careful now walking through the streets because if men find her, she'll be a
mm,
prostitute. If it's the cops that find her, the sense of danger. There is always such a sense of danger, and that is such a hook, isn't it, for a reader? What's
mm.
going to happen next? And you're turning over the page. What is going to happen to this girl? No, I just thought that was beautifully written. I really did. What else was I going to ask you? Um, Book reviews. Now, I can't imagine you've had any bad ones at all. But, when the book reviews come out, are you a little bit apprehensive about reading them? Do people see things in your books that you didn't realize were there? How does that work for you?
Yes, I mean, I do read them. And as always, there's only been one or two sort of negative ones. Those are the ones that stick in your head, aren't they?
Yeah.
Um, but yes, I had a fantastic sort of review. It was actually an old friend who wrote to me, and she works in gender politics. She's an academic, works in gender politics, and she just said, "Oh, the gender politics are absolutely perfect. The relationships between the men and the." And that review, as it were, meant so much.
Yeah.
It meant so much to me because it came from someone who really knew what they were talking about. Um, I don't know that people have pointed out anything that I
I
haven't
haven't seen
noticed.
yet.
Um,
There's time.
yes,
But does it
always.
make you
There's,
feel I know you're an avid reader yourself, and I know you like historical fiction. But maybe now when you've read someone else's book, does it make you, I don't know whether you write reviews or not on Goodreads or Amazon, does it
I
make
don't
you,
actually know.
you don't, but does it make you think about books in a different way now because you've written one?
Yes, yes, it certainly does. I, I'm looking at the tricks, if you see what I mean.
Yeah,
I can
sure.
see what they're
Yeah,
doing. I can
yeah,
see the clever
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Um, Recently, I read The Glassmaker
Right,
recently,
right.
which obviously has this very clever use of time,
Yeah,
where hundreds of years go by, but it isn't. It's only a few years. It's very cleverly done, and I was really analysing it. I suppose what I'm saying is you start to analyse
lies.
books much
Yeah,
more,
yeah. I mean, you use a
rather
lot of,
than
you've got flashbacks in this because,
yes,
we did know we did know what happened in the past to her. Some very poignant scenes about her parents and sitting on her father's knee. And you use flashbacks. I mean, there's all sorts of creative writing elements that you can use, aren't there? Timelines and
mm,
dual time and that sort of thing. And that's why I thought, when you've done your own book, perhaps you're a little more critical. Although you're a
I think
teacher,
you
so
are.
you've marked lots of homework in your
Yes,
time.
yes, yes, I
No,
have.
no. Again, do it again, please. So you'll probably have a critical eye anyway, possibly as a teacher. So yeah,
Yes, I think I have become more critical,
critical. Yeah.
particularly about endings. Actually,
Right.
I
Okay.
sometimes I think, oh goodness, really? You've
Yeah.
let us down there. It's not what we were hoping for, or you've done a twist that is too clever and is not believable.
Yeah.
So yes, I think you become more analytical, more critical
Yes. Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
result.
I can imagine you would. Not that I've ever written a book. I just review them. Your favorite childhood book, please.
Uh, that would have to be Little Women.
Oh, right.
So
Okay.
it's a
Louise and
slightly
Anne.
older
Yep.
childhood,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But yes, absolutely adored it, read it and reread it. And I think the reason is the men are absent,
Mm,
basically.
mm.
The father has gone away to war, and you've got some men next door, but they're not particularly active. And these young women and their mother um, cope. They are just capable. They just do it. And I loved the contrasting personalities of the young women, and just the way they get through.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Any
it's
other
my favorite.
books that
And of course, my
go on?
sorry,
No, go. I was just say any
no,
other
my
books
favorite
that
character
had a. I mean, I'm a bit of a Jane Austen fan. I have to say, I
oh,
can
me too, me too.
read and
Oh,
reread
yeah.
those books. But then I think, at school and university, and you read things that made an impact, had such an impact on you in a way. To Kill a Mockingbird, that
Oh
had a
yes,
huge impact that you get to the end and you find out that Boo wasn't who they thought he was.
yes.
The things like that that just resonate with you. Any other books that you can think of?
Well, like you, I'm a huge Jane Austen fan. I know people will say, what happens in a Jane Austen novel, everybody gets married at the end, and there is that. And there is the fact that, the Napoleonic Wars are happening, but you don't really even notice it because apart from a few men in soldiers' uniforms. I understand all that it's a very tiny world, but the precision of the
Yeah,
writing is
yeah,
what gets me.
yeah,
It's
sure.
just that every word counts in Jane Austen. You have to read a sentence and then read it again
Yeah,
because it's just so clever. But yeah,
yeah,
Emma is my favorite of them
yeah.
all, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Right. We'll do one more. Writing. I think I know what you're going to say to this one. Does writing energize or exhaust you?
Oh, it energizes me,
Yeah.
definitely. Yes. Find it makes me sort of fizz, fizz, fizz. And very often I will wake up in the middle of the night actually and think, oh, I know what should happen there. Or I've got that right phrase in my mind. I have to have a notebook by the bed
Right.
because something will come to me that I may have been trying to sort all day, and it will come to the surface at night, and you've got to write it down because if you don't, you forget it.
Yeah.
So I have this notebook with scribbles in it, um, of things that just come in the middle of the night.
Do you have, do you, I mean, everybody's different with their writing. Many people, just sort of get up first thing and by 9 they're at their desk and then write until lunchtime. How structured is your writing schedule?
It's not as structured as that, but I do find I write much better in the morning. I've,
Right.
I, I, I'm, I found I talk better in the morning. I've always been better in the morning. So I do like to settle down by about 9 o'clock.
Mm.
And I will find myself drooping in the afternoon, at
Afternoons.
which point I know it's time to stop, perhaps write a few notes down to think about for tomorrow.
Mm.
But yeah, the mornings are certainly better. And I don't really care what day of the week it is. So I don't have a strict sort of
Right.
day off at the weekend or anything like that. I will keep going if it's flowing, I'll keep
So,
going.
with your illustrious career as a teacher and then a head teacher, and
I don't
then
know about Austria.
you presumably thought, oh, now I'm retired, I can just read and paint and make cookies, whatever. Life could not have changed for you so radically
No,
as winning this competition, really, could it?
no, that's
You
right.
So
Yes,
retirement
I
is
sort of
not what you thought it was ever going to be. Much
it
better,
isn't.
obviously,
No,
but
I was very determined that I wasn't just going to slip into, obscurity and just sort of sit in the armchair all the time. So I did have some plans when I retired for voluntary work and various different things.
right.
And one was, I think I'm going to try and write a novel.
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
had the time. I've never had the availability. I think I'm going to write a novel. But I didn't expect to find myself, with a published novel and winning a prize and all the rest of it. So it is like another career has started up again, but a career that's more autonomous
Mhm.
than the one I was used
Am
to,
I right
obviously.
in saying that about 1,700 people entered this competition?
They did.
Yeah,
Yes, that's right.
about that sort of
Uh,
figure. So to win this is just a huge achievement. I mean, do you just wake up every morning thinking, God, that was good. I really did well there.
it,
I
it, it,
mean,
I do have to keep on reminding myself, I must admit, especially, if you're struggling with a new one, and you think, I can't do this. I don't want to do this anymore.
it
And
takes me back to my school, my wonderful private school that I went to. And one morning, gosh, what would I have been in assembly? Oh, I don't know, 14, 15. And the head teacher said, would Wendy please come up to the front at the beginning of
oh,
assembly? And I thought, oh my God, this, I'm going to be expelled.
yeah.
It's going to be bad. I know this is going to be bad. And she announced in front of everyone, and she said, Wendy, do you remember the writing competition that we entered for all the independent schools? And I thought, yeah, but that was ages ago. And she said, well, you've won it. And
Oh,
I must
wow.
have felt
Yes.
like you, that you just, it's
Yeah.
all your Christmases that have come at once. And you think,
Mm.
me, won a writing competition. How marvelous. So I can identify. I mean, yours is a lot prestigious than mine. I was only at school. But, what an
Oh,
achievement. What an achievement for
thank
you.
you. Yes, it was an absolute thrill. I remember I got an email. So you had to send off, I think it was the first 5,000 words and a
Yeah.
synopsis
Yeah.
originally. And then they long listed. So I got an
Yeah.
email saying, please, can we have the rest? And very wisely, they only gave you a few days. So you had to have the rest.
Right.
So
Right.
I just sort of tarted it up a little bit and then off it went. And then, you know, you're shortlisted, final six. I thought, this is wonderful. Invited up for
Does they
Edinburgh.
meet
I'm in the
me?
final six. And then the phone call from Jenny to say that I'd won. I was speechless. I remember somebody saying to me, "Did you squeal? Did you scream?" And
Did you scream?
I no, I didn't. I just went, "Oh, oh." She just took my breath away, really.
It's an inspiration. I mean, every year I do a writing retreat in Italy, and
Oh,
we have some are published and some have never written a word, but I always never want any of our guests to lose sight of the fact that it could be you one day.
yes.
And you are the most perfect example I think I've ever come across. Just winning a competition, and just out of the blue like that, and suddenly you've got a publisher. And for some people, it's years and years of query letters and agent. Well, you know it is
Yeah.
yourself, really.
Well,
So to
yeah.
get this, I think, is just amazing. And I'm going to use your name and your story and your book to all the writers, the new writers I ever come across, to say
Oh,
it can
that'll be a pleasure.
happen.
Please do.
Well,
Please
it
do.
can happen to you. It really can.
Can I add a piece of advice for them?
Sure,
A piece of advice for them
absolutely.
is just finish it.
Yeah,
It's quite
finish
simple
it.
because finish it because
Yeah,
so many people start a novel and they
yeah,
get perhaps a quarter or a third
yeah,
of the way through, and then you hit the really tricky bit.
yeah,
You really do, and you just must push on and push on,
yeah,
and then it becomes easier again.
yeah,
Um, but it's so sad how many people get a certain way in and then just say, "Oh, I can't do this anymore," and give up. So my advice is just finish it.
that's excellent advice. And once again, can I thank you for your time? It's just been amazing to hear the
That's right.
story. It's a beautiful debut novel, and I can't wait to see what comes next.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Glennis. Take
Thank
care.
you.